So today I'll be answering some community page questions for you guys. We have 20 responses, which is a lot as compared to what we usually get. So, good by you guys. Thanks for asking. We'll try to get to all of them. So first one here, do you think the Giants should consider a trade for a top wide receiver at the trade deadline? I would say probably not, because this is a team that I think we know is a rebuilding team. I don't see playoffs till, the NFL's a year by year type of league, but 2022, honestly, if we're being realistic with ourselves here. I think a trade for Allen Robinson would have made sense. I just don't really see the Bears moving him. I said I would have given up a second and a fourth for him. He's 27 years old. He is entering a contract year, or he's going to be a free agent. But I think the Bears would have franchise tag him. I don't think there's any way to let him go. So to get control of him, I think would make a lot of sense. But outside of him, not really. The Giants don't have a seventh round pick. You can't give a late round pick for somebody. Maybe you give up a sixth, but is that even worth it? There's probably some under the radar type guys out there. I think people who don't play, like John Ross, Deshaun Hamilton with the Broncos comes to mind. There's some people out there that maybe you can get for a sixth round pick, but to me, it's not worth it. I'd rather just keep the picks, keep the future assets, and just build the team. I don't really think it's worth trading for right now. If the Giants were a playoff contender, I'd say probably you go ahead and do it, but I just don't think it makes sense right now, so I would probably say pass on that. Next question, or demand, I should say. Do a video of whether or not Joe Judge gets fired after the season, along with Gettleman, or will we straddle him to a new GM? So, I don't see any way Gettleman survives this season. I think he's gone for sure. I would say there's probably a 5% chance Joe Judge gets fired. I just don't see that happening. I think that's such a bad look for the organization. Now, it is possible, but the way John Mayer is probably going to conduct this next GM search coming up this offseason is that Joe Judge is going to be in place and the next GM is going to have to work with him. Might that scare off some GM candidates? Yes, because sometimes they want their own head coaches, but John Mayer is going to hire the most qualified GM that is willing to work with Joe Judge. It's the same thing that happened with the searches back in 2018. They were going to hire the highest qualified GM that was willing to work with Eli Manning, and that's exactly what you get with Dave Gettleman. So that's not the right way to do things, but the Giants, for some reason, just do ass-backwards thinking and decided to fire the head coach and not the GM. Now you're in a situation with a head coach in place and a GM that's going to get fired. So why did they do it? I don't know, but they're going to be in a position where it just doesn't make sense. So I think Judge is safe. I just don't see it happening. If the Giants go 1-15, 0-16, there's always the possibility, but I don't really, I don't want to say I don't see it happening. They're bad, but I think the Giants will find a way to get at least 3 or 4 wins this year, hopefully. So, no, I don't think Judge goes anywhere, but of course, I would say probably 5% chance. Gettleman, I think 99% chance he's gone. Next question from Jason. It's a long one, and I'm not good at reading. I read it before. Basically, the guy talked about, forget about talent. What about the lack of heart these people have? Then had a personal story about how he was on a bad football team. His mom promised him a Sega Genesis. I don't know what that is. I guess I'm too young maybe for it. I don't even know what that is. But basically, his bad team went out and won the game based off of heart. Now, that makes sense. I don't really think the Giants' issue right now is a heart thing. I don't think they're a team that's just... maybe the only time I saw the Giants not showing heart this year was the second half of that Niners game because they were missing tackles and not showing effort. But I really don't think the Giants losing is an effort thing. And I said this about Pat Shurmur's teams as well. Pat Shurmur, for how bad of a coach he was, and people make him out to be worse than he was. I don't think he was the worst, but people make him out to be terrible. He did have the Giants playing hard for him. I will say that. So I think a lot, heart's a pretty important part of sports. I can make a personal connection right now. My brother is a much, I think, more talented basketball player than I am, but I have a lot more heart than he does. So we're kind of equal when it comes to actual, playing 5v5. I think heart's very important when it comes to sports, especially football. So I wouldn't say the Giants have a heart problem right now, but it helps. I know what you're getting at, but I don't really think that's the issue right now. I think ultimately the Giants have a talent issue. If you look at other rosters around the league, the Giants are not as good as they are on paper. So that's really the main issue. I've always talked about how the positional value thing definitely hurts this team. Their best players are running back. Their best players are run-stuffing defensive tackle. So those right there are very low on the positional value charts. You want your best players to be quarterback. You want a great pass rusher. You want a great left tackle. Might we have a good left tackle maybe in the future? Not right now. We don't have an alpha pass rusher, and our quarterback's been playing like garbage, let's be honest. So We don't have those things, and right now it's reflecting in the record. So I wouldn't say it's really a heart issue. I think the majority of the problems here is still, it just goes back to not having the talent. Next question is from Andrew L. No, I'm not answering your question. Shut up. No, I'm just kidding. So with Daniel Jones' future in question and many speculating NYG drafting a new quarterback, do you think it's time to think about trading Barkley, whose talent is being wasted during this rebuild? Yeah, it's a good question. I don't think the Giants can trade Barkley because of the injury. And even if he wasn't injured, I don't think teams value the position he plays, being running back, enough to trade what Barkley is worth. Like, the Giants at best might get a late first round pick for Barkley, and that's like, best case scenario. So I don't see that happening, honestly. I mean, Barkley on a contending team would be a nice piece, but as you said, for a rebuilding team, it doesn't make sense to draft him, or I pretty much spilled the beans on that one. But obviously, I didn't think the Giants should have drafted him because I looked at this as a rebuilding team. Now it's coming back to bite them. But you're right. It doesn't make sense to have him here. When you have a running back, usually your running back's best years are like his first 5 or 6 years. We are now 3 years basically into Barkley. He had the great rookie season. The Giants had 5 wins. He had a nice second year with some injuries. Had over 1,000 yards. That resulted in 4 wins. And now he gets hurt the third year, and the Giants are probably going to have a 3 or 4 win season. So, it all goes back to making that mistake back in the 2018 draft, and has nothing to do with Barkley the player. It wasn't the right pick for the right time. I've said that 100 times by now, but it's true. But when it comes to trading him, I just don't see it happening. I don't see a team that would want him because of the injury and the position he plays. And also, I just don't think you can trade an injured player right now. So I just don't see it happening, but it's a good thought. But there's a lot of questions about his next contract. Like, we have no idea what's going to happen. If I was GM, I'd probably try to trade him, honestly. I don't know what you'd get for him, but it would not break my heart if the Giants let Barkley walk. I'll put it that way, because I think spending $15-16 million a year on a running back is a recipe for disaster. We saw how Todd Gurley turned out, and there's, just running backs seem to just kind of fall off when they're like 25 years old, and that's kind of when Barkley's contract would be up. So I'm not, too enthused about paying a running back. If they do it, I think it'd be a bad idea, but I guess we'll see how it plays out. There's probably going to be a new GM anyway, so I guess we'll see what happens in the future. Next question from Aaron. Quarter of the season down, maybe something along the lines of what's been good, what needs to be better, and where we can improve. Also, what would be your go-to offensive line with the guys we got? Thanks again for writing all these out. Appreciate having something to watch when I go. Oh, yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. So, yeah, my impression of this team, wow, this is not going to be good. But, yeah, my impression of this team is I guess I cannot be too surprised. I feel like when I did that bold prediction video, I said the Giants would not start out any better than like 1-4, I think I said, or 1-5. I forget what the record was. But it's a little worse than I expected, which is not a good thing. I think defensively, they're better than I thought they would be, which is pretty surprising. But offensively, they're worse, like a lot worse than I thought they'd be. I thought the Giants were no better than like a mid-tier offense, like a middle-of-the-pack type of offense, but they have turned out to be the worst in the league by a lot. Like, I think the Jets, I'm trying to remember the numbers, I think the Jets have 65 total offensive points right now, like on the season, and the Giants have like 47. Like, they are really far back, and the Jets are 31st, so you're talking like 65 points to like 47. So we're terrible. We're in a different league offensively compared to 31 other teams, and that includes the Jets, that includes like the Dolphins and Washington, all these joke franchises. So it's not good. I mean, this offense should have been better. I mean, the offensive line has struggled for sure. They've had their moments where they looked pretty good. They've had their moments where they look awful. Andrew Thomas has been a disappointment. Now, I'm not going to give up on him because I think he has too much upside and give up in his first year. He's had a tough schedule as well, so I don't want to make too many excuses for him, but still, I mean, it's kind of tough to be thrown into that situation at left tackle. So, yeah, I mean, my impression is I'm not too impressed. I'm a little disappointed, to be honest with you. I figured like this is the year where things really start to move in the right direction, but now you have people wondering if the Giants are going to have the first overall pick come April. So like that's kind of where we're at right now. So we're in a position now 4 weeks in where we don't know if our quarterback is the guy or not, and I hope he is, but it's not looking good. Like, he has to play better. Jason Garrett's offense is terrible, and Garrett, if this doesn't improve, Garrett might be gone by the bye week. I mean, it's not like, I feel like it's not too far-fetched to say if the Giants are this bad, like astronomically bad compared to the rest of the league, then I feel like Garrett might be done before a full year. I think if he continues to do this bad, he'll be done after 1 year, but even the bye week is possible, which is crazy to think about. But yeah, this offense sucks, and this defense is playing well. Patrick Graham seems like a keeper. Joe Judge, I don't know what to think about him yet. I haven't seen anything that makes me like love him, but like he's been all right. Can't really complain. Hasn't said anything that bad, so I guess that's a good thing. Been good with the media so far, so there are some positives, but I would say overall I'm a little disappointed. I forgot to answer the last part of Aaron's question, or maybe the middle of it, but like what offensive line would I start right now? I'd probably go with Andrew Thomas still. Too early to give up on him. Will Hernandez, even though he's been terrible. Honestly, like if Will Hernandez doesn't improve by like mid-season, I say throw Shane Lemieux in there. Like why not? Like there's just no point. Of course, Nick Gates at center's been pretty good. It's been a bright spot. Take him still. Zeitler's got right guard. And honestly, like I put it out on Twitter, like why not start Matt Parrott at this point? Like I don't know if I'm missing the point here. I don't know if he's like completely ready. But Parrott has played like 14 snaps so far, I think, and he hasn't looked bad. He's looked good, honestly. I know it's like a very limited sample size, but like he's not embarrassing himself, I'll put it that way. So honestly, if it was me, I'd probably try and get Parrott in there pretty soon. If Hernandez is this bad, I would say in like week 9, week 10, I would say maybe make a swap there with Lemieux. So we'll see what they have. Next question, Woperer feed. This is like a long-time subscriber, I feel like. How you doing? Rank the top 5 quarterbacks of the 2021 draft. Probability they are drafted by the Giants. All right, so honestly, I've watched 3 quarterbacks so far. The 3 main ones, Trevor Lawrence, Trey Lance, and Justin Fields. My interpretation of them so far, and it's limited, I feel like this can change, so don't this is not definitely a permanent thing, but so far from what I've seen, of course I have Lawrence number 1. I have Trey Lance number 2, honestly. I love his upside. I think he reminds me of Deshaun Watson kind of. He has some inaccuracy issues, but like he can make some crazy throws. His arm is amazing. His upside's through the roof. His rushing upside is great. So I'm in love with that. Like I said when the Giants drafted Daniel Jones, I'm a big ceiling guy. That was a real quote from me after the Giants drafted Daniel Jones. I didn't see a high ceiling with Jones, which is part of the reason the pick pissed me off. But with Trey Lance, I see that guy having like top 5 quarterback in the league type potential. So like I love him, but I don't see the Giants taking him. He doesn't seem like the Giants type of guy. We'll see. And the last one, Justin Fields. So Justin Fields is impressive in some areas. He kind of reminds me of Dak Prescott, but more athletic, honestly, which is a good quarterback. Like, I don't know if he's there as a passer like Prescott, but like he's a little more athletic, a little bit better of a runner. So that's a good quarterback, but I have a fear, and this happens with Ohio State quarterbacks, I feel like all the time, is that he's just in a great system there, and it gives me like Dwayne Haskins flashbacks. Like I've watched like 2 games of him so far. There's nothing that I've seen from him that like really wowed me. That was like, oh, that's a great play. Like I think he's doing what the system is telling him to do. I haven't been too impressed yet. I have to watch more, as I said, but I think right now I'd have it as Lawrence, Lance, and then Fields, and then I guess we'll see what the rest follows. But the Giants, so if the Giants have the first overall pick, it's probably Trevor Lawrence. I think for the Giants to have the first overall pick, unless like Daniel Jones has a season-ending injury at some point in the near future, they're going to know if he's the guy or not. And if the Giants are that bad to have the first overall pick, you probably know by that point that Daniel Jones is not it. They would have a new GM, and if they have the first overall pick, you can almost, take it to the bank. The Giants would take Lawrence first overall. Now, Trey Lance, as I said, does not seem like the Giants' type of quarterback. You can make that a race thing. You can make it like a mobile quarterback type thing, whatever you want. I just don't see that happening. I think Trey Lance would be a quarterback I would love to take. As I said, I don't know yet. It's early in the process, but like the guy has amazing upside. I feel like having a veteran quarterback and then putting Lance in like midway through the season or early in the season, like most of these young quarterbacks do, it seems like these days, would be a great move, but we'll see. And then Fields, I guess Fields is, I don't know. I have no idea if the Giants would draft him. I really do, because I can't answer these questions because we don't know who the GM is. Like, if it was Gettleman still, I'd probably say no chance that Trey Lance or Justin Fields get drafted here. But, if it's a new GM, I don't know who it's going to be. So I guess that's a wait-and-see type of question. But, yeah, Lawrence, Lance, and Fields for me right now. All right, next question from Brian. Kind of a tough one, but I'll try it. So, examples of how other teams beat the defensive schemes we see, and why are we not running those offenses? All right, so as I said in like a previous one, I think the main issue with the Giants is talent. Their offensive line, specifically the left side, has not played well so far. If Will Hernandez and Andrew Thomas were playing at an excellent level, things might be better here. If Daniel Jones was playing at an excellent level, things would be better here. If Saquon Barkley was healthy, things would be better. Sterling Shepard, same thing. So there's that built-in excuse of guys not playing well. But from a scheme standpoint, you're right. I mean, Jason Garrett's scheme has made no sense to me so far. The Giants are like one of the bottom teams in pre-snap motion, which always helps. I remember saying this back last year, even I think 2 years ago if I was doing film reviews back then. I loved when I guess it was 2 years ago, because I remember the Giants would send like Odell Beckham in motion behind like, a formation, and just that would be enough to maybe throw off a linebacker. And I always brought it up. I said, I love when Pat Shurmur puts Odell Beckham in motion, because that's the guy defenses are zeroing in on. The Giants don't have an Odell Beckham these days, as we know, but at least putting a wide receiver in motion, it just gets your eyes going, and it might get a linebacker to go a wrong direction. So, like, those things would definitely help. They don't do any type of pre-snap motion. I mean, sometimes they do, but not enough for my liking. I was going to say something else, too. Like, they run way too many curl routes. I mean, like, when you watch them on film, it's just, like, constant curl routes. It's just, there's no creativity with the route concepts. It just feels like the route concepts are the same all the time. They don't run any pick plays or anything to try and benefit them. Not a lot of times where Jones is like on a bootleg or on the move. I just feel like this offense is just so, as I said, bland and boring. And it just like, they're doing Daniel Jones no favors whatsoever. Like the injuries and the play calling, the offensive line, they do the kid no favors. I've admitted that many times. But, Jason Garrett has to be better. I don't know if it gets better from here. I guess it does, because it can't get any worse, I feel like. But, like, the offense has to get more creative, because it's 2020. Things in the NFL have changed. A lot of offensive schemes are a lot more complex than ours. Look at the Ravens, look at the Rams, look at the Niners. I know I'm shouting out good teams here, but like even if you watch like the Panthers, maybe they're pretty creative as well. So like, it's not all about talent. Sometimes like the Giants have a bad combination of bad talent and bad coaching right now for offense at least. So like that's the main issue. If they scheme things better, maybe they'd be averaging 18 points instead of 11. I don't think this would be like a 30-point team regardless. They're not talented enough, but maybe having a better scheme can jump up your point total by 5 or 6 a game. You know what I mean? So I think ultimately it comes down to talent, but it also comes down to Jason Garrett not being creative. Next from Ty, do the Giants even look like they will be a competitive team in the 2021 season? So as I mentioned, the NFL, very year-by-year league. Some people, for some reason, thinks it takes 5 years to rebuild in the NFL. Not true. Don't believe that. So I think if they get the right GM, if they made like 3 or 4 good free agent signings, if they had 3 or 4 draft picks that were like day one impact players, and maybe they have Trevor Lawrence or Trey Lance, maybe. But with the current nucleus they have, I don't see it happening. I think it's more of a long shot. That's why I said 2022 before. But I think if they had a really good offseason, like they just knock it out of the park and the new GM does a great job and does things that I think make a lot of sense and can definitely propel them to the playoffs, I think it's possible. This division is complete trash, like we know that already, so it's not like you have to have an 11-win roster to make the playoffs in this division. There's an extra playoff spot now in the NFL. The NFC is like not that good, I feel like, anymore. Well, some teams are, but still, especially our division is not good. So you can get 8-9 wins and win that thing. So like it is possible, but I just wouldn't count on it. But I do think if they have a good offseason, I would say it's a possibility. So I'm not going to say no to that completely. Next from Toba, what do you think about Joe Judge being the GM? So it's been an idea brought up, I feel like, by some people. Joe Judge is like 38, 39 years old. I think Joe Judge, based on how this offseason went, had a lot of influence with personnel decisions. You can argue with me all you want about that one, but I really think if it was Dave Gettleman calling all the shots, I think Ryan Connelly would still be a Giant. I don't think they would have had all that offensive line depth. Like I feel like a lot of this was Joe Judge influenced. You can say what you want about it, but for him being the complete GM by himself, I don't necessarily like the idea, but it's too much responsibility. Like I brought this up with the entertainer as well. Like how can Joe Judge be a GM during the season and also make game plans during the season? Like there's just too much on one guy's plate. Like you have to have a GM, I feel like. If Judge is here for 15 years and then like the next GM is like out of a job, and he's doing well, then maybe you promote him at that point. But to do it in his second year, I just feel like it's too much for one guy to handle. I feel like that might go in a bad direction. I'm not going to say he'll be like as bad as Bill O'Brien was, but like, you know what I mean? Like they can turn into Chip Kelly or something like that. So I would say probably hold off on that. I want like a legitimate GM in here, but it is an interesting thought. Next question. Can you do a film breakdown on why Jason Garrett's offense has been so bad? Why is it so vanilla? What can he do to improve? So I kind of touched on that before. I think just adding more of that pre-snap motion to try and throw teams off, getting Daniel Jones on the move more, stop running curl routes, 50% of your passing plays, actually try to go deep once in a while. I think those things will work. I had a film review video that came out a few days ago. It might have been posted after the question was asked, so you might not have seen it at that time. But yeah, I went over basically on that the Rams film review. It was basically all the Giants offense. So like, you know, you can go back there and watch it. I thought routes were terrible. I thought this decision making by the quarterback wasn't good sometimes. So as I said, it just has to do with the scheme and some of the players not playing up to their standards. Next from Wilhelm, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Trade rumors / prospects. That is a very general thing to say. All right. Trade rumors. All right. I don't think the Giants are trading for anyone that I know. Well, I said that last year and they traded for Leonard Williams, so who the hell knows? But the Giants definitely could trade people. I think Golden Tate's a name brought up for sure. I think Marcus Golden should be a name brought up for sure. Trying to think who else, like what type of veterans can be on the move here. I don't really see any value with other veterans on this team. I mean, Kevin Zeitler would be like a dark horse candidate. I don't see that happening, but I think Tate and Golden are probably the main ones. Evan Ingram's a name I should bring up as well. I don't know if the Giants will trade him. I've said on a previous video, if the Giants got the right pick for him, and I said top 70 in my video, I might even lean towards like top 100, honestly, then I would trade Evan Ingram. I don't think the Giants will do it because I don't think a team would offer that much, but, you know, you never know. A team, all you need is one team. That's what they say. All you need is one team to believe, and you might get a good draft pick for Evan Ingram. I said Sterling Shepard. I don't see that one happening. He's too injury prone. So prospects, I don't know. I haven't watched enough yet. I think I've watched 6 prospects so far. I've dove into Trey Lance and the other 2 quarterbacks. I've dove into some other players, but I'll have a lot of draft videos like once the offseason comes around. I definitely love diving into that stuff, especially recently. Like last year, I was really into the draft, and it's kind of fun to evaluate that stuff. Next from Jur M. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but if the G-Man get a top 3 pick, would you prefer to go best player available or trade down? Gettleman has barely, I don't care. Gettleman's not here next year, so don't even bring his name up. If so, get a new GM. Okay, at least you brought that up. So yeah, I think a trade down. Here's the thing. If Daniel Jones is the guy, and they know he's the guy, and let's say Jones finishes the year really well, the Giants get 3 or 4 wins, they have a 2nd or 3rd pick, I think it's possible to trade down. Now, it's tough because there are some great prospects here. I watched Penei Sewell, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, the left tackle from Justin Herbert's school, Oregon, I think. Yeah, Oregon. I watched him play. He was phenomenal. Like, he was one of the best prospects I've watched, like, ever. And, like, I've been watching draft prospects since, like, 2018, so it's not like I have a large sample size here. But, like, still, the guy looks flawless. So if they get him, maybe you just forget about that and just go best player available. But if the Giants are in a position where they're 2nd or 3rd, and let's say Lawrence goes first to like the Jets, let's say, or something, and teams really want a guy like Trey Lance, I mean, think about the draft capital the Giants can get. You know what I mean? Like, they can get a lot of picks for a guy in that situation like a Trey Lance. If a team like, I don't know, maybe like Detroit, Atlanta, if they're kind of off of Stafford and Ryan by that point, some other team that needs a quarterback, if they want to trade up for Trey Lance, the Giants might get a 1st-round pick, a 3rd-round pick, a future 1st round. Like, they might get a lot of picks for that. So that's something to keep in mind. But I think best player available, assuming Jones is the guy, is probably the right move. I'm not sold on Jones being the guy, but if not, maybe they go Trey Lance or Justin Fields. We'll see. Why did the same guy from before? Why did the Giants fire Pat Shurmur? The Giants could have demoted him to OC, not fire him. I don't see that happening too much. I don't think guys get demoted to OC. Like, that's kind of like too much of an insult. I don't see that happening. I was under the impression or the belief that I believed if Gettleman got another year, that Pat Shurmur should have got another year. I didn't think it was fair to fire one of them and not the other. We're now seeing Daniel Jones not play well in a different system, and we've seen him regress for sure. Now, we know Shurmur wasn't the best coach, but Shurmur can call an offense. He's not a bad play caller. I'll put it that way. So I didn't love him as a head coach, but for a guy who was good at developing quarterbacks, and the Giants have a young quarterback that needs to be developed, Shurmur helped a lot with that. So there was no way he was going to go from head coach to OC. That was never going to happen. But I did believe he deserved another year, so I'm just going to be honest. Like, if the Giants fired Shurmur and Gettleman, I would have been fine with it. If the Giants obviously fired one of them and kept the other, that kind of annoyed me. So I didn't like the way that was done, but they probably should have gave him another year with Gettleman staying. Next from Rodrigo, what steps and tasks do the Giants need to take in order to become a playoff contender, and how many years do you think it'll take for the Giants to become contenders? So we touched on this before a little bit. I think 2022 is the realistic one, but as I said, have a good offseason this offseason. You get a good GM, I think it's possible. I don't think this roster is like, I don't want to say like complete trash, but like it's not, if they're just like, a few good players at important positions away from being a good team. Like if the Giants had an elite quarterback right now and an elite pass rusher and an elite wide receiver, this team can go from a 4-win team to 8 or 9. Like they're not too far away. Like the Giants have good pieces on this team. Like I like their secondary a lot. I like Bradbury. I like a healthy McKinney. Peppers is whatever. I don't know if he's part of the future or not. Linebacker-wise, Martinez is the real deal. Defensive line, they got their guys. I mean, Leonard Williams, his contract's up, but still they have Tomlinson, who they need to re-sign, Dexter Lawrence. So, like, they have guys. Their offensive line, the young, if the offensive line comes together and is good by the end of the year, you have yourself a good offensive line. Receiver, you need help. Tight end, you kind of need help if Engram's not going to be here. He'll probably be here next year. I don't know what's going to happen with him. But that's what I mean. Now, the Giants are basically a good quarterback, a good wide receiver, and a good pass rusher. Not even good, just like, really good, away from being what would be a 4 or 5 win team or a 3 or 4 win team to a 9 or 10 win team. So, like, they're not that far off. They just have to get these star players at important positions. Now, if the Giants had, let's just hypothetically say, let's just say you threw Aaron Rodgers, what other positions? Aaron Rodgers, Khalil Mack, and Allen Robinson. Let's say you threw those 3 guys on the Giants roster. How many wins do they get? I think that this Giants team with those guys added is probably an 8 or 9 win team, which is probably good enough to win the East. It's like you're not that far off. Now, Allen Robinsons and Khalil Mack and Rodgers don't grow on trees. I understand that. But what I'm saying is they're not as far off as people may think. The Giants roster is not complete crap. They're just kind of crappy in important areas. That's all I want to say. So they're not crazy far off. They just have to get those great players at important positions. Last question from Arthur. Do you think we will try to re-sign Logan Ryan? So that's a guy I forgot about in the secondary. I like Logan Ryan. It depends on him. It's really all about him because I don't think Logan Ryan's going to cost a crazy amount. He might, but it really comes down to his preference. I just don't think other teams this offseason met his price tag. Now, if Logan Ryan, who's going to be like 30 next year, maybe I think it is, says, okay, I just want to compete for a Super Bowl, then he's gone. But if he's here for money / likes the culture here, then he might be back. But I don't know what type of contract he would want. Are we talking 2 years, $10 million? Are we talking 3 years and $20 million? Like, I don't know what type of contract a guy like a Logan Ryan wants. So, like, we'll have to wait and see. But I would take him. Like, I would take him back on a good contract. If you told me right now, like, you can get Logan Ryan for 2 years, $10 million, then yeah, sign me up for it. But I don't know what type of contract he wants. I don't know if he wants to play for a contender. So it's really all up to his personal preference. We'll have to wait and see on that one. But that'll do it for this video. We had a lot of questions today. I don't think it was 20. I think it looked like 20 because people were responding. So that's probably why it looked like more. But I appreciate those who asked. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. I'll probably do this again next month as I always do. And I'll talk to you guys next time.